Hi, my name is Phil and it is way past my bedtime, but yes we, have got Wolfenstein Youngblood to play. Welcome to Phirst Hour Reviews. Now it's a 2-player, baby, you ready? Do you want to take the controller? You ready? You ready? Oh, well I hope you can handle a gun better than a controller. Welcome to Phirst Hour Reviews. My name is Phil. I am a viciously tired and time-restricted father who's going to review all the latest video games solely based on their opening 60 minutes. Why? Well, that's because of my little co-presenter here, Josie. She keeps me up most nights. She requires a lot of attention and playing and feeding and bathing and everything. And my time and my focus is obviously well spent on her, but it means that I only get really 60 minutes of me time before I pass out due to exhaustion. Yeah. Now, it's been a while since we've done a video and a lot has happened. Me, personally, I've had a new job, so hence why there's a bit of a delay on this latest video. And Josie, you've got teeth! Hey! And you're crawling. Boo. A lot of movement, so she's more cheeky than she is right now, aren't you? Moving around and following us. But yeah, so she's growing nice and well and still being very naughty and disrespectful to her father. Aren't you? Episode 5, Wolfenstein Youngblood. Ow! I have been pretty skeptical about this game, to be honest. I thought the new Colossus was a near perfect first-person shooter. I thought it was so good, one of my favourite first-person shooters or games possibly ever. And yeah, considering a change in focus and most importantly the cheaper price tag, considering this is a spin-off, I think it's right to be a little skeptical of how this will be. But you know what? It's got good people behind it. And, you know, if it's still as gory and as stupid as the others, then I really shouldn't have anything to worry about. But before we play this game together, why don't we take a little step back through time and find out the Wolfenstein series from the beginning to right now. For almost 40 years, the Wolfenstein franchise has been viciously, controversially, and beautifully invading homes with their gory Nazi cleanup agendas. Beginning life as a World War II stealth adventure in 1981, Castle Wolfenstein was the Apple II's Game of the Year, making it successful enough to spawn a sequel, Beyond Castle Wolfenstein, in 1984. Slow loading times, predictable gameplay, and disappointing reviews put the franchise on ice until 1992, when ID Software released one of the gaming industry's most famous, and arguably important first-person shooters ever, Wolfenstein 3D. The grandfather of 3D shooters was a tremendous success for the studio, and its multiple ports and general longevity meant Wolfenstein was placed on a pretty high pedestal until its 2001 reboot, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Sporting impressive visuals and an addictive first-class multiplayer, this mighty remake was more than worth the wait, and truly paved the way for the future of not only the franchise, but first-person shooters and online multiplayer as a whole. After an inspiring multiplayer expansion pack that laid the foundations for the studio's future titles, Wolfenstein returned to its single-player roots with a more paranormal adventure of the same name. Although expanding on the studio's tech capabilities, this 2009 incarnation was met with a mostly lukewarm reception, with critics and fans longing for something genuinely new and thrilling from the franchise. All they had to do was wait 5 years for it. Helmed by minds formerly responsible for the Darkness and the Chronicles of Ridden games, Swedish-made studio Machine Games were trusted with developing an invigorating, heart-pounding new chapter in the Wolfenstein saga, and thus the New Order was born, and by golly was it good. Despite being a direct continuation to the 2009 effort, everything within the New Order was fresh, gorgeous, and inexplicably exciting, so to no one's surprise, the die-hard fanbase got their sequel, and the new Colossus was unleashed in 2017. Once again, this dystopian alternate dimension-led adventure was as brutal as it was beautiful, earning it immensely positive reviews amongst critics and longtime fans, again proving that there was still gas in the old Nazi killing tank yet. With the franchise truly filling its potential as one of the most satisfying and enjoyable first-person shooters on the shelves, Wolfenstein has now reached new heights as one of the most talked about, must-play series in years. So fingers crossed this sweet momentum continues in the latest installment, Youngblood, one that fans have been chomping at the bit for ever since its predecessor's epilogue. But Youngblood comes with a few changes, and there's more of a co-op focus. So, can Youngblood keep the incredible hot streak going despite a slight change of direction? And is this just a cheaper, gimmicky cash grab? Grab that rocket launcher, Josie. There's some Nazis that need exploding.
Speaking on behalf of a generation who grew up learning about the nefarious, revolting ploys of the Nazis during World War II, I was under the impression that every video game that gave me the opportunity to wreak maniacal revenge on said Nazis would be a rewarding and immensely enjoyable crusade. But I was wrong. Wolfenstein Youngblood may look and feel like its predecessors, however very quickly I found it wasn't so much in their shadows, but being stomped to death by the big boots I expected it to fill. Wolfenstein Youngblood sees seasoned protagonist BJ Blazkowicz step aside and allow his twin daughters Jess and Soph to take the bloodthirsty spotlight. Set 20 years since the events of the new Colossus, the Blazkowicz sisters take it upon themselves to search for their missing father in Nazi-occupied Paris. The first task at hand is to select which of the sisters you wish to control. However, as the only difference in the pair is surprisingly their names and appearance, the two hero-led narrative doesn't really stretch further than a typical buddy cop action movie, except it's following genetically enhanced mega-Nazis and not drug dealers by the peer. Taking a break from the usual monotone super serious super soldier and joining the fray as a pair of dorky wisecracking frat girls is a little refreshing admittedly, however with little more to go on than their savage banter and generic I must find my father mentality, they sadly aren't characters I'm interested in playing as or even revisiting. Gameplay wise, Youngblood gives you two methods of playing: solo with an AI companion, for those of you like me who thrive off being antisocial, or online co-op with a friend or total stranger. Taking the reins alone will pair you with a pretty smart AI companion, capable of mowing down enemies as elegantly as you, if somewhat a little slower and a little fewer. As a single player venture, Wolfenstein Youngblood does nothing to progress the franchise, and although it's an incredibly difficult thing to achieve considering how near perfect the new Colossus was, the lack of genuinely real heart-pounding set pieces, a remotely memorable villain, or even a surreal OTT narrative really does it no favours at all. Playing online is great on paper, it's easy to jump in and out of a game, your XP is carried over, and it's a barbaric, gory and explosive campaign for you and a friend to enjoy together. However, in practice there are a number of super blood-boiling decisions that can make it such an aggravating mission. Poor checkpointing means when I bled out I had to sprint and navigate around a labyrinth of corridors and alleyways to have a chance at even rescuing my sister, and perhaps the biggest hair puller was respawning with the ammo I had when I died, which meant boss fights in particular were difficult when starting ammo was less and less each time I tried again. Youngblood tries its best to bring the uber chaos that has made the series infamous, however it doesn't transition terribly well into a multiplayer experience, especially when all that differs is a larger playground and double the amount of bullies playing in it. Every kill, discovery and action rewards you with XP points, which in turn give you the means to upgrade your Nazi killing machine, which is great in theory and standard RPG practice, but Wolfenstein Youngblood isn't an RPG, and it really doesn't work. Comparing this to the likes of Borderlands, a game where leveling up nets you sweet weaponry, loot, and challenging opponents corresponding to your achievement, in Youngblood, there's just none of this, arguably making your actions somewhat a waste of time. Depending on how you choose to play, Youngblood can go from being too difficult to too easy at the drop of a head, which makes for a very inconsistent and annoying experience. In my 60-minute playthrough, I spent most of my time shouting at the game's first boss, which I found to be a ridiculously unfair difficulty spike so early into the game, and it was only through leaving my campaign and joining another online for the experience that I was able to beat him. And that really shouldn't be the way I have to progress. I understand that my opinion may seem a little too negative for a game that is actually not that bad, however if you're expecting to follow up on a franchise that has truly reached its peak, then it's gotta be flawless, regardless of whether it's a spin-off or not. The gameplay, though fast-paced and predominantly invigorating, doesn't bring new things to the franchise. Well, apart from the co-op obviously, but even that isn't a necessary way to play this game, and arguably it could have easily been an additional feature for an all-out true third installment. Wolfenstein Youngblood is an entertaining yet mediocre and hugely mismanaged FPS wrapped in a prestigious, promising brand, and that sadly makes it seem worse than it actually is. Don't get me wrong, it is okay, but sadly in this day and age, that ain't okay. So yeah, a bit of a difficult game to review. It's not that it's necessarily bad, it's just it's got such big shoes to fill, and unfortunately the risks I feel don't really pay off. I think the co-op is fun enough, particularly with a friend, but you know, all it is it's Wolfenstein times 2 in a way. You've just got double the amount of enemies, double the amount of people playing, loads of bullets and bodies flying, and you know what, it doesn't actually bring some well-needed juice, some energy and just some bizarreness, which is ultimately what Wolfenstein is
has been known for these past sort of decades or so. Thanks, babe. So for 30 quid, I guess it's worth investigating, particularly if you've got a friend who's into the same franchise. Then you know what, it's not a huge amount of money to throw away. And I use the term throw away a little bit harshly, admittedly, but it's because the new Colossus is much cheaper and it is far better. So if you want an adequate... I know, sorry it is, I know you've not played it, we'll play it soon. So yeah, so if you want your money and your time to be spent on much better things, then the new Colossus is the way to go. So sadly, Wolfenstein Youngblood is a bit of a... from me, if you can put that into... Well, I tried to put it into words. If you can spell it. So Josie, what did you think of Wolfenstein Youngblood? Okay. How do you think it compares to the other ones? Okay. Strong words there from a little baby. So, she might be small, but she knows a lot about games. Do let us know what you think of the review anyway. Do you think I'm being too harsh, or do you think I'm being pretty bob on? You can get in touch with us via a variety of different ways. On Twitter, we are at Phirst Hour Games. If you type in us on Facebook, Phirst Hour Reviews, you will find us there. And obviously, we're on Instagram. We're going to be posting a lot more now. Obviously, we've had a little break from it, but you can see lots of cute pictures of me and the Joe playing our favourite games, and we are Phirst Hour Games on Instagram. That does it for this review. I've been Phil, she's been fairly well behaved, and we'll see you next time. Farewell. Say bye, Josie. Bye. Wait, bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye. Bye, bye. Don't leave me hanging. Bye, bye. Oh.